There's no better way to start the second half than by beating a team who has the best record in all of baseball.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan covering this team for 12 seasons, including all 7 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, we're talking about this weekend series, the Rangers suffering maybe some more injuries, maybe getting some more injury help along the way, and just a bigger picture look at this team 9 days ahead of the trade deadline. Before we get into all that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Now, the Rangers started out their second half after the All-Star break, taking 2 out of 3 against the Detroit Tigers, nearly taking all 3, the only loss coming in a one-run game on Sunday Night Baseball, where the Rangers looked, well, they looked about as good as anybody looks against Tarek Skubal in the year 2025. But I want to start with the good things that happened this weekend, because there were quite a few. Taking 2 out of 3. It wasn't the most convincing series win. It wasn't the most fun series win, but it is a series win. And that's what this Rangers team needs to do between now and July 31st at 5 p.m. Central Time. They need to win as many games as possible. And between now and then, this is by far the toughest series that the Rangers have. Winning 2 out of 3 games against the Detroit Tigers team that has been the best team in baseball for the entirety of this season. And not just winning, but really holding down what has been a very good offense with some stellar pitching. The Rangers finished the first half with the best ERA in baseball as a team. And what do? But they come back and they limit the Detroit Tigers to just a minuscule number of runs this weekend with some great starting pitching, including from Jacob Latz, who was not supposed to start on Sunday. But let's start with the first game of this series. 5 2/3 shutout innings from Patrick Corbin, 6 strikeouts for him, lowers his season ERA back down under 4. Another starting pitcher for the Rangers with a sub-4 ERA, which makes all of them outside of Kumar Rocker, who had his best start of the season. But this Friday game, not a whole lot of fireworks, actually pretty much the exact opposite. A lot of frustration for this offense, a lot of situations where the offense could have done a little bit better of a job, had plenty of opportunities with a runner on third base and fewer than 2 outs, where just any kind of ball to the outfield, or a well-struck ball, well enough struck to the outfield, would have gotten the run home. But the Rangers saved all that drama for the bottom of the 8th inning. Corey Seager did what Corey Seager does, comes up with a clutch big hit, a 2-run double to give the Rangers a 2-0 lead, which they would need to close out, and then subsequently did close out in the 9th inning with the 7th save of the season from Robert Garcia. But again, some timely hitting by Corey Seager. He has done a lot of that as of late. A great job by the bullpen. Sean Armstrong going an inning and a third of perfect baseball, of near perfect baseball. I should correct myself. Chris Martin comes in. He gets his first win of the season, going 1 shutout inning, lowering his ERA down to 2.14. And then Robert Garcia closes it out with a couple of strikeouts. His season ERA is back down below 3 as well. He has been fantastic this season. Another good start from Patrick Corbin. Maybe could have gone a little bit deeper into this game, but 5 2/3 innings with just 5 base runners allowed. That's a really, really good start against a Tigers offense that's been really good. I mean, the Tigers offense didn't have that many opportunities with runners in scoring position, but they couldn't do anything with it. 0 for 2 with runners in scoring position on the day for the Detroit Tigers. Rangers 1 for 7. Good enough. Good enough for the Rangers to get that win. But the best pitching performance of this series, outside of Tarek Skubal doing his thing, maybe even better, because it was a shutout performance for Kumar Rocker, going 6 1/3 innings of shutout baseball on Saturday. This is the best he's ever looked. And even when he got himself into a little bit of trouble in that 3rd inning, he was so incredibly economic with his pitch count in the other innings that he was still able to pitch into that 7th inning and even had a 5-pitch inning, which was just incredible levels of efficiency. Most of those innings outside of that third where he threw about 30-something pitches still didn't allow a run or even a hit in that inning, but worked around a couple of walks, some self-inflicted damage there. 6 and a third innings, just 1 hit, 1 single in that 6th inning, 5 strikeouts, 3 walks, no runs allowed. Not quite a season high in pitches, but 96 does bump up there against the most that he's thrown in a game. 65 strikes for Kumar Rocker, despite having a trio of walks. This was an incredible start for him, and to save this Rangers pen just a little bit, just keep them fresh enough to give them a chance to close out the series win with the A side of their pen, because of an incredible second game of his Texas Rangers career from Rowdy Tellez. But I really want to dig deeper into this Kumar Rocker start. He used the slider a little bit in this one, did not use the curveball at all. I'm a little confused at how StatCast is differentiating these different types of breaking balls. I mean, the cutter and the curveball are pretty easy to differentiate, but I thought that the slider had maybe kind of gone away once he started using the cutter as his primary breaking pitch, or just honestly his primary pitch. And this one, he threw 96 pitches and not quite half of them, but almost half of them, 45 of them were the cutter. Then he mixed in that sinker and the four-seamer, threw them about an equal number of times, 20 on the sinker, 17 on the four-seamer. It got some swings and misses, a couple of swings and misses on that four-seamer, something he hasn't really done all that well, but still mixing in that changeup enough to keep hitters honest, especially left-handed hitters, keeping them honest. Didn't throw it at all to the right-handers, which makes sense. That slider he threw equally to right-hand, or almost equally to right-handers and left-handers, threw 4 of them to righties and 3 of them to lefties, but the cutter was just murder on these Detroit Tigers hitters. He got 8 swings and misses off of 22 swings there. Also had 4 called strikes. It was sitting in the zone enough, and they were chasing out of the zone enough for that cutter, and it paired well with the slider. This shows you how good he can be when he throws multiple different versions of that breaking ball. He didn't have to throw the slider that many other times. He didn't throw the curveball at all in this one, but still, when this cutter, which I think might be the best version of his breaking ball, the curveball at times has gotten hit pretty hard. The slider at times has looked really nasty. He leaned a lot on the slider last year. Hasn't used the curveball as much as of late, now that he's favored the cutter more. The slider really came out of fade, but he's bringing it back in there. And I really think that if he can have a start where he has a feel for all 3 different types of that breaking ball, I mean, he could not quite abandon the fastball, but throw it a significantly smaller percentage of the time. And when he did, I think it'd be that much more devastating of a pitch. And this is just such a great start for Rocker. He had strung together quite a few pretty good starts in a row from the 15th when he got called back up. I mean, that Tampa Bay start was awful, but then, those 3 starts in a row where he looked 4 starts really in a row where he looked really darn good, from the White Sox start to the start in Pittsburgh where he went 5 1/3 innings and only allowed a couple of runs. Then he went 6 innings and only allowed a couple of runs and struck out 6 against Seattle in a big game on the 28th of June. And then on the 4th of July, he looked pretty solid against the Padres. Rangers ended up losing that one. But that start against the Angels, you thought, oh boy, I hope that's not more the same, where he just got lit up for some of those home runs. A couple of them coming, at least one of them coming from Mike Trout, a pitch that was a pretty good pitch that Mike Trout just did Mike Trout things with. And he didn't beat himself in walks with these last few starts. I mean, he hadn't had 3 walks at a start since that start against Pittsburgh. I mean, even though he was getting lit up in that start in Anaheim, still went 4 1/3 innings, gave the Rangers a chance to win. The bullpen ended up blowing that one, but still gave this team a chance to win. And winning is the most important thing, not necessarily how they do it, but that they do it. And the fact that they did it against this great Tigers team is such a feather in their cap they can use to hopefully continue winning series after series in this homestand and all the way up until this trade deadline. But I haven't talked about this offense, including a new Rangers player who had an exceptional second game of his Texas Rangers career. Talk about all that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site that's made for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical works, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400 plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for the trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks, like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. So join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Shout out to the everyday being Locked On Rangers, your first listen every single day. On tomorrow's show, I'll be back and talk about the first game of this series against those Oakland, no longer in Oakland, West Sacramento, Yolo County A's, and hopefully a great start from Jack Leiter. But the Rangers got just enough offense in this series, not a whole lot, but enough to get 2 wins in 3 games, even though they average just over 2 runs per game. 3 of the 7 runs that the Rangers scored in this series came off of one swing, a 3-0 green light to Rowdy Tellez. Now, Rowdy Tellez, if you do not know, is the newest member, one of the newest members of the Texas Rangers. He was signed to a minor league deal after he was with the Seattle Mariners this year. Just a very streaky hitter, and I talked about it on Friday's show. I said Rowdy Tellez is here to do one thing and one thing only, and that's hit dingers off of right-handed pitchers. And you know what? In his second game as a member of the Texas Rangers, he did exactly that in a crucial at bat in the second inning. The Rangers got a couple of runners on base, runners at the corners with 1 out. Think, okay, Rowdy, just hit a ball in the outfield, just get 1 run, and we'll see if Kumar Rocker can just go to work. And works himself into a 3-0 count against Kiter Montero. Takes some really close pitches. I mean, all of those pitches were either in the buffer zone or just barely missing the buffer zone. Gets a fastball that he likes on 3-0 and absolutely obliterates it for his 12th home run of the season. You may be thinking, why did the Mariners let a guy go who had 11 home runs at this point in the season? Well, that's because he's been abysmal against hitting left-handed pitching this year. Not as much so for his career this year. He's just been very, very bad. He's not great defensively at first base, and they already had, they thought, enough options in terms of their offense, which, again, with the Mariners team, I feel like they always could use more offensive firepower. But the Rangers just signed him up and said, hey, let's see if we can get you a chance. And with Jake Berger on the IL for 2 to 3 weeks with this quad strain injury, Rowdy Tellez is going to get some time to shine. And this is exactly what you bring a big boy like him in here to do. Just go in there and absolutely demolish baseballs, just crushing it. And he worked some quality at bats as well. He ended up working a walk later in this game. He went 1 for 2 with a walk and a strikeout in this one because just not a whole lot of offense outside of that. Corey Seager was able to drive in an extra insurance run to make it a 4-0 lead to give the Rangers out of those high-stress clutch situations. So the Rangers didn't have to use the A side of their pen for 2 days in a row, and then not be able to use the A side of the pen for the Sunday night game if they had a chance to sweep, which they did end up doing. Only had to use Hobie Milner for a couple outs there, and Jacob Webb did a pretty good job in his 2 innings of work, didn't strike anybody out, and did allow 1 home run, just a solo shot, which made it a 4-1 game as opposed to a 4-0 game by Riley Green. A really impressive shot by Riley Green, his 5th home run or 25th home run of the season. He's been having a great year, but the rest of this offense did not do much of anything. I mean, just really not much going on. I mean, Rocker allowed 1 single, and Hobie Milner allowed a hit and a walk, and then struck a guy out in that 7th inning of work to finish it off. And then Jacob Webb, the only base runner he allowed was that solo shot, and bing, bang, boom. The Rangers take the first 2 games of this series and then head into the Sunday night game, which was supposed to be a great pitching matchup of Nathan Eovaldi versus Tarek Skubal, and ended up being Jacob Latz versus Tarek Skubal. A couple of lefties, not the Jacob that ESPN would have preferred be pitching against Tarek Skubal on Sunday Night Baseball, But Jacob Latz, again, in a spot start opportunity, did an incredible job. He has been so darn good for this Ranger team, going 5 innings, did work around 6 hits and 2 walks, only struck out 3, but only allowed 1 run. And that is the important thing. It kept this Rangers team in it. He gave the Rangers a chance to win against Tarek Skubal. And this is another great start for him. I mean, the last 3 starts that he's had have been exceptional. I mean, he went 6 innings of just 1 hit ball against the Baltimore Orioles in Baltimore, against Kansas City in kind of a last minute, a bullpen bulk roll. He went 5 2/3 innings, just didn't strike out anybody, and only allowed 1 run that came off of a solo shot against Jack Caglione on a pitch at his eyeballs. I mean, he has just been so darn good as a starter this year. He's only had a few opportunities there. Didn't do great in his last outing against San Diego, but I mean, in that outing against Baltimore, we went 3 innings. And this is just such a valuable guy to have. And when he's been starting, he has been fantastic. I mean, really, truly fantastic. I mean, against the A's, his first game of the season, going 4 1/3 innings of shutout baseball. He also had not a start, but a bulk relief role in that bullpen game in DC, where he looked really darn good against the Nats. I mean, 7 strikeouts in that game, did work around a couple of runs, which I believe were his inherited runners that ended up scoring. But he has been so darn good that I really think the Rangers have got to consider him as a starter heading into camp next year, where the rotation might look like Jacob deGrom, Nathan Eovaldi, and then, well, at some point later on that year, we might end up seeing Cody Bradford after he is recovering from Tommy John surgery. He might end up missing all of next year, even though it's internal brace surgery. I wouldn't expect him before any point in like maybe July or August. And that leaves you with, the Vandy boys as the other 2 spots in this rotation next year as the 3 and 4 guys. Even if the Rangers don't sign anybody, which, might end up being the case, they might not end up signing any starting pitching this offseason. I think they'll sign probably 1 guy. But even if you don't do that, then you have Jacob Latz possibly as your number 5 starter until you get Cody Bradford back. And that is a pretty solid rotation. I think that's something the Rangers should absolutely consider, because even though he's been great in this bullpen, I really think that Jacob Latz should be given an opportunity to start. And if Rocker or Leiter starts faltering lately in the meantime, even before John Gray comes back, which we'll talk about in the 3rd segment, that I really think Jacob Latz could absolutely step up and make a couple of starts in this rotation, maybe even stick in this rotation, because he's been so darn good. But this Rangers bullpen in general has been so darn good. And it's even without signing their 2 best arms from last year, Kirby Yates, who signed a deal with the Los Angeles Dodgers for a hefty chunk of change, I believe at least around $8 to $10 million a year is what he's making this year and next year. And then David Robertson, who I thought was going to retire, had not signed anywhere at this point in the season. He signs a $5 million deal with the Phillies, which is prorated to, I believe, about $15 million. There's also some incentives that he could end up getting along the way. I really did not see David Robertson signing in the middle of this season. I thought if somebody was going to sign him, it would have been maybe the Dodgers, who definitely needed some more help in their pen, at least at this point in the midseason. Phillies have needed some help as well. But I know there's a lot of complaining in the offseason of the Rangers just, being quote unquote cheap, of like, oh, I can't believe they just let David Robertson walk. I can't believe they let Kirby Yates walk. And you look at how the Rangers built this bullpen this year, which has been mostly pretty darn good. The entire bullpen cost about $15 million this year. That's with the most being $5.5 million to Chris Martin, who we'll talk about his injury, him leaving the Sunday Night Baseball game with a leg injury in the 3rd segment. That's with more than a third of the money of this entire bullpen is going to Chris Martin, who's been pretty darn good. Everybody else was pretty much piecemeal. I mean, the only other person making more than $1.5 million is Hobie Milner, who's making $2.5 million. Everybody else piecemeal together. $15 million. Last year, the Rangers bullpen cost over $30 million, and it was $12 million for David Robertson. So say David Robertson, who's prorated for $15 million this year, that's the entirety of this Rangers bullpen. Who would you rather have? One David Robertson or this entire bullpen? I know Chris Young caught a little bit of flack for how he built this bullpen in the offseason, but it is absolutely working. It's going to be difficult to nail all of these signings like he did if he tries to rebuild this bullpen on a bunch of one-year deals next year. Chris Martin is probably retiring, so getting him on a $5.5 million deal probably isn't an option. Maybe re-signing Hobie Milner and hoping that works out again could end up working out, and the Rangers will hopefully next year have some of these prospects who don't end up making the rotation matriculate up into the big leagues and have some of that nasty stuff in the back end of this pen. But I just really want to use this time to compliment what Chris Young did with this bullpen, because I love the strategy at the time and it is proving to be absolutely brilliant. Even if David Robertson comes in and is absolutely amazing for the Phillies down the stretch, we've seen what Kirby Yates has done this year. He's got an ERA north of 4 last time I checked. And this seems like a much smarter investment in the Rangers' money of building their bullpen like this instead of spending it all on just one guy. But because occasionally those guys can stink and occasionally those guys can get hurt, which might have just happened to David Robertson. We're going to talk about that and Nathan Eovaldi being scratched from the Sunday Night Baseball start and what that means right after this. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball on the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. Let's check out those FanDuel odds for the Texas Rangers for the 2025 World Series. I bet they are still a little bit of a long shot. Yeah, all the way down there behind the San Francisco Giants and just ahead of the Minnesota Twins. Yeah, after the Rangers, it really drops off. The Rangers are down there right around the middle of the pack at plus 5,500. The Giants are at plus 4,500. And right behind the Rangers is the Twins at plus 10,000 to win the World Series. You look at the AL West, the Rangers have gained some ground since the All-Star break, and heck, even in the last week and a half, much more ground they had gained in basically the entire month of June. Astros still favored at minus 330 to win the AL West. Rangers all the way up there at plus 1,500. I believe they're at plus 2,000. Maybe even at the All-Star break, the Rangers are just 7.5 games out of that AL West, and in order to make the playoffs, they are getting pretty close. And just to make the playoffs, their odds right now are at minus or plus 270 to make the postseason in general. So if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets when your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. Shout out to everybody who's making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. After every single game, Jeff Biggs is with you with the Locked On Rangers postcast, coming to you live, reacting to all 162 games in your Locked On Rangers podcast feeds on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Now, this Rangers team has suffered a little bit of injuries this year. They have dealt with the Cody Bradford injury. They've dealt with the John Gray injury. They've dealt with the Nathan Eovaldi injury, and even an earlier Chris Martin injury. And, it seems like the Rangers may have dodged a bullet with the Evo injury, but Chris Martin left the game with a left calf strain on Sunday Night Baseball after allowing the go-ahead game-winning run in that game, ballooning his ERA all the way up to just 2.36, which, again, he has been just so darn good for the majority of this season. But leaving this game with a calf strain, a guy who is just the tallest man on this Texas Rangers team and 39 years old. He has already dealt with some injuries this year. The Rangers are really hoping that he does not have to end up on the IL, because if worst case scenario, if the Rangers drop, 5 out of the next 6 games, they end up with a losing record and they end up being, 6 or 7 games out of that third wild card spot by the time they hit the deadline. I don't think they will. Right now, they're 3.5 games back of that third wild card. And they'd have to lose quite a bit over the next 9 games. They've got literally 9 games between now and the deadline. And if Chris Martin, who might be the Rangers' most intriguing trade chip that they would actually trade, if he is on the IL, the Rangers cannot trade him. If they decide to be sellers at the deadline, really they're 2 most intriguing trade chips that they would actually trade in Tyler Mahle, who is going to be on the IL past through this trade deadline and will not be eligible to be traded. That would be just such a frustrating thing for this Rangers team. And the Rangers just need as many good arms as they can have in their pen. I mean, shout out to Luke Jackson, who, even though the Rangers didn't get the win on Sunday, pitched an inning and 2/3, just allowed one walk and no hits and a strikeout in his inning and 2/3, kept this Rangers team in the game, gave them a chance to win, and the Rangers did not end up doing that, but at least they had a chance. And you look up and down this bullpen, it's mostly really solid. And the Rangers have some reinforcements coming back, but they might have another opening in their rotation. Right now, Nathan Eovaldi is not expected to hit the IL. He was supposed to start on Sunday. He was scratched due to soreness in his back, but he did throw some pitches. He did throw from flat ground on Sunday, and he's expected to miss an IL stint, according to the Rangers, and he could return by midweek. Right now, the Rangers rotation is set up for the series of Jack Leiter tonight, Jacob deGrom on Tuesday, and then TBD on Wednesday. That could be Nathan Eovaldi, or it could end up being Jon Gray. Now, the Rangers say Nathan Eovaldi is not expected to hit the IL, but they have said that many, many times this year about many different pitchers. After Jack Leiter exited the game after 5 starts, after that incredible start in Cincinnati with a blister injury, they said, he's not expected to miss another start. He's definitely not expected to hit the IL. And he was out a month, maybe 6 weeks, if my memory serves correctly. After Nathan Eovaldi was pulled with tricep tightness and he was pitched 1 inning right before he hit the IL, they said, no, he's not going to miss a start. He's not going to hit the IL. That's not going to happen. And then he was out for 6 weeks. And they said the same thing with Kumar Rocker when he was pulled from his start after he missed some time with an injury. They said, no, he's fine. He'll be totally fine. He's not going to miss any time. And he was out a month. So this Rangers team, their PR team, has not really earned the benefit of the doubt when talking about injuries. I mean, heck, they still have one of their top prospects, Alejandro Rosario, who had a torn UCL back in February. And still to this point, we do not know whether he has had Tommy John surgery, whether he has not had Tommy John surgery, or why that hasn't happened, if it hasn't happened. It said 6 weeks after that he had not had the surgery due to some issues that they weren't going to say what it was, but they were hoping to get it resolved soon. And that was in April. We still have heard nothing since then. So I'm not exactly super trusting the Rangers information that they put out about their injured players. Why they're being like this, I don't know. It's incredibly frustrating to both media and especially to fans. They just kind of straight up lie to their faces about how hurt their players actually are, because their team of physicians are very good at their jobs. So they know what the actual timeline is. It's not like they just don't know, and whoopsie, everybody happened to have massive setbacks. It's just kind of not something that I feel like we should take the Rangers at their word when they say these things. But I do trust that Jon Gray is coming back soon, because we are seeing him in his rehab outings. He threw 61 pitches on Saturday, and he could end up being an option to start the Rangers game on Wednesday. If Nathan Eovaldi does require an IL stint, that would be just truly devastating for a team that needs every single start from every best pitcher that they can get. I mean, we're now a month and 2 weeks without Tyler Mahle, who was incredible for the first month and a half of this season. That has been devastating for this team. They could have won, I think, several more games had they had Tyler Mahle in this rotation during that span. But alas, that's not how it worked. And if they lose Nathan Eovaldi for any prolonged stretch, and I'm pretty sure at some point Jacob deGrom will have to at least skip a start, if not 2, because you can't really go from throwing 3 starts in 11 or so innings that he had last year to throwing 30 starts and what is on pace to throw 150, 160, maybe even 180 innings from deGrom this year, which I don't think, even though he is fully healthy and fully back, I don't think that is a smart play for Jacob deGrom, because if the Rangers get to the postseason, they might have to just shut him down. I don't think they would. I don't think Jacob deGrom would let them if they get there, but they got to be really, really careful with a guy who is just pushing the limits of what is physically possible of throwing baseballs for a guy who's 6'4" and a string bean. But if Jon Gray comes back, I think he might end up being a part of this bullpen. If the Rangers have to put Chris Martin on the IL, I think slotting Jon Gray into that spot in the bullpen would be incredibly helpful. And the Rangers have some more reinforcements that are on the way. Not quite as they're not going to be back here as soon as John Gray, but Josh Sborz has thrown now 2 rehab outings. It's been about a week in between his outings. He threw on a Friday. He threw an inning for the Frisco Rough Riders and looked, he pitched. He pitched. That's about what you can say about that. He pitched on the 12th as well. That was 6 days before. That was in Round Rock. He only went he only went 2/3 of an inning in that first outing. He threw 26 pitches. 15 of those were strikes. Allowed a couple of hits, including a double, a single, a walk, and a strikeout in 5 batters faced. In this most recent outing against the Corpus Christi Hooks, he allowed 1 hit, which was a triple. He also walked a couple and struck out 1 in his 1 inning of work. Where Josh Sborz would slot into this pen, again, there's not a whole lot of openings at this point. Maybe the Rangers end up sending down Caleb Bosley, who is a solid long relief option. Maybe the Rangers end up slotting John Gray into that kind of long relief role. I don't know exactly what this Rangers team is going to do with their bullpen in the coming days. And I don't think the Rangers are going to be buyers at this trade deadline. Even if they're still in it, I think the goal is just to avoid being sellers. And if the Rangers have enough depth where they could deal away a reliever and still think of themselves as competitive and still try and compete and win games this season, I think that might be ideal. But again, the Rangers have thrown these guys so many innings at this point in the season that I don't know exactly how well they're going to hold up down the stretch. I mean, Milner has thrown so many times. I mean, Jackson has thrown quite a few outings. He's been struggling in some of those high leverage relief outings. And Chris Martin, who is 38 years old, we've seen he can't really throw. He definitely can't throw in 3 straight days. Even throwing back-to-backs is not something that is particularly good for him. I mean, Robert Garcia has thrown so many outings this year, and even Jacob Latz has thrown a lot of innings, not a whole lot of outings as of late, but whenever he's going out there, he's throwing a lot of pitches, and he's being very effective in doing so. So, I mean, the Rangers had some options of how they're going to build out this pen, and I'm just really intrigued to see what they do. My ideal trade deadline is honestly doing not much of anything, which sounds a little bit like a coward's way to do it, but I think that is kind of the ideal route that the Rangers could go at this point in the season. Now, one last little bit of news. Jose Corniel, one of the Rangers' top prospects. I believe I had him in my top 15. I can't remember exactly where I ended up putting Jose Corniel, even though I did that literally last week. But Jose Corniel was one of the top 10 Rangers prospects at the point when he had Tommy John surgery in 2023. He was Rangers Pitcher of the Year in 2023. And in 2024, he ended up having Tommy John surgery, missing all of that year, and just now coming back and throwing for Frisco a couple of innings there where he looked pretty darn good. I was really impressed with what Corniel was able to do. 2 perfect innings of work, 1 strikeout there. Fastball in that mid-90s range. Slider looked really darn nasty. Followed in relief by David Davalillo, who threw 4 2/3 innings of shutout ball. And the Rough Riders ended up shutting out the Corpus Christi Hooks in that game. But good to see him back on the hill, Jose Corniel, who is a name to watch from this point on through the rest of this season down on the farm. And that even overshadowed a little bit of an incredible weekend from Sebastian Walcott. Go look up those box scores and some of those highlights of those incredible hits that Bam Bam Sebastian Walcott had this weekend, as he was looking absolutely fantastic. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank y'all so much for listening and subscribing. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.